Hello, I'm Cookie Stoner, and welcome to Cookie Stoner Presents. I'm here today with Joshua Wortham. Did I say it right, correct?
Yeah.
Joshua Wortham, 13 years old. But as everyone says, you are definitely an old soul. I said I feel like I'm sitting here talking to a 50-year-old gentleman, or perhaps um, an older, wiser gentleman, because you are very easy to talk to. And we won't say anything about perhaps my maturity level, right? How we're meeting. But we are having a nice little afternoon here in Decatur, and thank you all for coming. I do want to do a disclaimer. You are here on our Coming Out series, and your mother is in the background. Say hello from the background, Mother.
Hi.
Hi, Mom. Rebecca Wortham is here from the background, and the reason we're doing that is because you are 13, and but I felt comfortable doing this simply for a couple of reasons. Joshua, after talking to our licensed professional counselor, Nancy Thomas in Montgomery, about her work in the LGBTQ community. And then, of course, now without invoking your pediatrician's name, your current pediatrician's name, and because I've not spoken to her, but she is also very much an advocate for children who are, coming out at a younger age now, because as she said, this is how you were born. And she stands behind the science, and we're hoping that we can reach out to her and perhaps let her explain a little bit of that, because we do know it is and I hate that. I hate to even have to just say that. I hope that one day we look back on this and we're like laughing at ourselves that we say that it's a controversial issue. Don't you?
Yes.
I hope sometime that we do that. So you're 13, and we're going to talk. We're going to let you do a lot of the talking, obviously, because you're the one that's the most important person here. But 13 now, when did you first know that I don't know, did you know the term that you were gay, or did you just know that you were open to different genders, or different people in having relationships?
Well, I feel like I've always kind of known that I could fall in love with anybody, really.
Right.
Male or female.
Right.
And, in our house, we don't like to put labels on people, and my mom and dad are very, very open, and a lot of their students have come out to them. So, as students come and talk about it, I kind of hear from the background. I'm like, oh, what's that word?
So
and
that's
stuff
what
like that.
that's what. And did you think like, oh, hey, that might be what I'm feeling then?
Like, it's kind of like a word placed into a feeling, yeah.
Okay. So when and tell me again what your parents do that they are teaching students.
They teach music lessons out of their house.
Yes, and y'all are all involved in. Is it the Youth Symphony or the
Madison City Youth Orchestra? In fact, we have it tonight.
Wow, in fact, you have it tonight.
Yeah.
That's right. I know your schedule was very busy. So when we were trying to schedule this interview, y'all are very busy. So what do you play?
I play trumpet and piano.
Trumpet and piano. Okay. And so everyone in the family plays something?
Yes.
You've got a lot of siblings, don't you? A lot of brothers. There's a lot of boys in your house, right?
Yep.
How many?
6.
6 boys.
7 including Latte, my dog.
7 including Latte, your dog, and you know how we are. In fact, Keats is over there wanting to get in here with us, but I'm still concerned about his neck, as you know, so I didn't want him to jumping around and us not being able to talk. So now, at 13, you seem to be very comfortable in your own skin, which in talking with my other guests and having conversations with them, they knew at a young age, and not putting words in your mouth, when is the first time that you were cognizant of that you might like boys or girls?
Around 9 or 10.
So around 9 or 10, okay.
Yeah.
So you weren't like when you're 5 or 6, you weren't really having crushes on anybody or really even thinking about that at that time?
No.
So when you were around 9 or 10, you just had this thought process, and because of your family being open, you thought about this. So you said 9 or 10. So from what I understand, you actually came out to your parents when you were about 11.
Yeah,
Somewhere
10,
around
11,
10,
yeah.
11. Okay, so you had a couple of years where, and I'm sure you weren't, most 9-year-olds are probably not just sitting here thinking about, boyfriend, girlfriends, but because I'm sure you were very busy doing other things, but you still had that in your thought process for a couple of years.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
Did you, I mean, was it ever associated with anything negative?
No.
So it was what it was.
Yeah.
And then as you got older, which is, 11, tell me how you told your parents.
We were just sat at the dinner table, and I was like, hey, you know how all of your students keep on coming in and saying that they're, gay or pansexual or lesbian or transgender? I think I'm pansexual. And they were like, okay, pass the ketchup.
Okay, pass the ketchup, okay.
But yeah, it was really cool because then they were like, okay, we have to go run errands. So I stayed home with my brothers and stuff, just watching them while mom and dad went to Kroger. And they got all of this rainbow stuff, rainbow sprinkles and rainbow whisk and everything to bring back as a surprise.
Oh, so your parents did that for you.
Yeah.
And so how are your brothers? Are they, because you're living in an open family, were your brothers accepting?
Oh yeah.
So there's not any.
They don't really know to hate anybody.
So they don't even. So
feel,
if you
yeah.
raise someone, sort of that nature versus nurture. If you raise someone in your home and I don't really know if that is nature versus nurture. That really doesn't make any sense. Actually, because if you raise someone in your home to be a certain way, then obviously that's the way you'll be. I think we many times learn from, either in our home or from society how to act, and we act accordingly. Would that be a fair statement to say?
Yeah, sometimes, yeah.
So you tell your parents, and let's go back on the pansexual, because even for me, I know I've had to do, because I've had many people reach out to me, and I did have someone who did not feel comfortable coming on camera because of her family. She was afraid that her family would disown her, which isn't that sad. And she said, I'm pansexual. And I did have to do a lot of reading, and then I realized, I was like, well, what's the difference in bisexual, being pansexual? And that means you're open to relationship with male, female, or trans. You're just wanting to love the person. And, I'm trying to, think about all of my 55 years and then all of your 13 years. And certainly knowing the kind of family you're from, that you're very well read and very, you all are not just open, and people will use that word like, oh, well, they're just open to anything. What I think that means for me is that you all are, and you correct me if I'm wrong, that your family is aware of a great big world out there and many facets to people, personalities, psychology, sociology. So therefore, you don't stay in this one little place that's very, homogenous, that's very, very closed. Would that be correct? Okay, and I think that's what I would like to say about my family is that, it's not that you say, I'm aware of this, I'm going to go do it, but you become aware of it and you go, oh, that's what this is.
Yeah.
Do you kind of think that's how it is? Because if you didn't know, or if somebody had told you, if you lived in a family where someone said, that's wrong, you go back and you quit thinking that, then there are most of those kids who thought that, they thought this way when they were young, but many of my guests said they had to wait and change it. They tried to make this go away by praying or by doing whatever, simply because of you had the same characteristic that you thought about it young, but simply because you had a family that said, okay, at a young age, you were then able to just continue being who you are. So it's really the same starting point for my other guest. Yes. So you were able to do this. So because of that, you seem to be very, well-adjusted. I'm sure we all have stuff. We all have whatever, but that's not, you don't have to worry about your parents' love, your brother's love. What does that mean to you at 13, being able, are you aware that other people don't have it like you do?
Yes. In fact, one of my mom's students had to come live with us for a few months until she went on to college because her family disowned her because she came out. And it's stories like that make me really sad that people just can't wrap their head around love.
Right. Can't have, well, and they can't wrap their head around love, but they also can't wrap their head around that you can be born this way, or you were born this way, that someone does not choose it. And as one of my other guests said, no one ever prays to be gay. Most people are like, oh my God, please take this away. Please make this go away. Simply because we have groups that, and I know your family is very faith-based. So when people will take, and we use the word cherry picking, and I think your mom used it, you affirmed that, is that someone will take this statement and then use that, something that was a certain way cultural, but yet they don't say in the very next verse something that's cultural that we no longer do, that everyone thinks is awful. And so that has been, and I don't want to bash, my job is to never, nor is my spirit to ever bash anyone.
Yeah.
And I know that's not yours either, because we do want to be, walk in love, as we say. But that's a problem for you, isn't it?
A little bit. A lot of people, like you're saying, do cherry pick, verses and stories like that in the Bible, and they're like, oh, well, whatever said this, and, but they're not reading all of the rest, and they're not reading it in context. And stuff
Or
like
in
that.
context, or they're saying, well, this says it's wrong, but the next thing is really wrong too, but we certainly don't do this anymore.
Sometimes they take it too literally. I feel I'm kind of one of those people who's a little more open-minded to the Bible and things like that. I kind of think that some of it is more like a story.
More like a metaphor.
Yeah, like a metaphor.
Right.
Like,
or if it were culturally at the time, it could have been what was happening at the time, but that was cultural at that time.
I feel like it's kind of all of the above.
All of the above. I agree with you. Well, what we'll do, and I know on that one I did a lot of establishing and talking, and it's more important that we want to hear you and talk about how you feel and more about your story, because that's really what this is about. You've got lots to talk about as far as who you are, what all you do, your comfort in your skin, and then also it's one of them we're going to talk about the cookie business, which I'm just saying y'all were real busy today and didn't bring many cookies, but I guess I'm going to have to come up there and get some, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I am, because they are beautiful. So after this, what we'll do is we'll come back to the next segment with Joshua Wortham on our Coming Out series.